page.
And
yes.
are you receiving
Yeah, there you go. You turned
video on your Instagram?
You want to turn the sound?
And
yes.
are you receiving
Yeah, there you go. You turned
video on
Alright,
your
so
Instagram?
do I turn the sound off on?
You want to turn the sound?
And
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay.
Brilliant. And so it's going live. Did you press live as well? Did you press the go live button at the top of the top?
Yeah, it's live. It's showing different picture. Like it's only showing my shoulder and your shoulder.
Okay.
So the one in our Zoom is a full picture, but the one in the live video is showing my wall, essentially.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, and in your shoulder.
Okay. You have to go down like this.
It's showing it's showing your right the stuff over your left shoulder in the corner of your room.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll cancel. I'll cancel the. I'll stop the stream to the Instagram, and we'll carry on.
Yeah, here we go.
Yeah. Yeah. Iris is Instagram live queen. I don't usually do it, so I was hoping that because probably the video formatting. But yeah, we are here live on Facebook and YouTube. Thanks for watching. We're here with Beth Olson to talk flow science and health as part of the Masters of Flow Talks Summer Talks 2025. And I'm really excited to be here with Beth because we met recently on this amazing flow training journey, performance neuroscience. And we'll just dive in a little bit after. Beth, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, yes, I'm so excited to be here with Rory and just to be flowing again and talking about our experiences and our understanding and our very diverse sort of approaches to health and wellness. I think both of us have a deep interest and very specific understanding of what health and wellness means, what our practices are, how we approach that in a community landscape, as well as a very personal, intimate personal practice. And I hope this becomes the beginning of a long series of discussions where we can dive very deeply into how we work with the changing landscape and resources that are also constantly changing for health and wellness, for our own personal and community health and wellness.
Amazing.
And I hope to empower others as well.
Fantastic. Yeah. And I've had 25 years of being fascinated by health myself through going through mental exhaustion and period of psychosis in my 20s, recovering through reflexology and getting better again because I didn't know how to communicate my emotions, my voice. And so ever since I got better that quickly, I have not stopped being fascinated with health because it's like, I don't know many people that can say that everyone thinks it's like a sort of like one-way street, or because not everyone, but it seems to be, no information around a lot of what is essentially transformation rather than a transformational approach to understanding health, rather than a linear approach to health, which healing isn't just linear. It goes up and down. Pain and tension goes up and down. All these things go up and down. So I'm really fascinated to hear more. In fact, before we even dive into the flow science and health, we mentioned about resources and you mentioned two aspects to health, which was what was fascinating to me that popped up into my mind. One of them being resources, and the other one, what did you say?
Practices, maybe?
Yeah, tools, resources.
Tools, right. I
Yeah.
think there's a real differentiation. We have so many resources now compared to maybe even 10, 20 years ago when I would say growing up and a young kid. Anytime any kind of health question came up, it was considered negative. It wasn't spoken about. It was a weakness, and it wasn't supported. And mainly, your primary support system was your primary care doctor. So obviously, things have changed dramatically. One of the things I think is really important is looking at not only do we have endless tools available in different types of modalities, from acupuncture to the ER, which I was in 2 nights ago, to EMDR, to hypnotherapy. But I think one of the most challenging things for people is to implement them into a daily personal practice that has impact for them and that actually can change their life. What would you say, Rory, is one of your main primary practices that has helped you the most in your health journey?
Oh, what a question. I love it. Thank you so much for asking. Because out of all the times, I feel like I've finally, when I say finally, I finally kind of feel like I understand a lot more about things, that it all just clicked when running through the flow science training, because it wasn't like something that I didn't already understand, but I was able to describe it. I was able to describe it simply. There's this idea, even just in the idea of flow, is to prime the brain before doing something, rather than just trying to jump in and into treacle and try and swim in treacle before getting into flow with the topic. It's like the more we know that that's the case, is that that's going to happen, the more we prime our brain for it, the better. So that's what I found, is that yeah, there are many different things that I do every single morning and throughout the day to manage. And I've realized that it's all the struggle and the practice of learning those different skills, many different ones, is that now I spend time actively seeing myself doing it beforehand and getting excited that it works. And so that the priming of it is the preemptive mental rehearsal of that task, of that thing. So if I'm going to go for a walk, I get excited about the idea of going for the walk, because and then I think, oh yeah, the rhythm is going to regulate my nervous system. The slowing down of my thoughts is going to happen, and I think about all these different elements of what the walk will do. The fact that it will just be looking forward to knowing what the usual route is going to look like, but I wonder what will happen along the way that is different, that I can look out for, and the nuances of the routine of it, the nuances of what will be different, whether I'll bump into someone that I'll be attracted to or not, or what I wonder what experience will be different to that regular experience. And just little things like that have all built up to the point where it just, when I come back, I'm feeling twice or 5 times, maybe 10 times as refreshed as I would have done, because I wasn't I was just kind of thinking I should do it, or I get to do it, and I do it, and I come back eventually feeling better. But a lot of the time, I'd be using the walk as a rescue remedy to try and clear my mind. Now I'm preemptively excited and clearing my mind with the priming as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah. What I also hear from you is that you have almost, I almost given yourself permission to be in the present and to be in the moment, not just go for a walk for the sake of it's a 20-minute or whatever walk. I'm going to come back and do this thing and look more forward to being done with it. But along the way and along the path, your discoveries, your expansiveness of the moments that you have and the nuances that you have become experiences that can cause you to learn something new, that can cause you to change, that can cause you to evolve. Yeah. And I think that to me is healing. And that is one of the biggest aspects of health and wellness, that we came from a culture and an industry of such speed that we weren't given that permission to have moments and to be in that moment. And the respect that I have for being present and for being in the moment has changed dramatically, I think, over time. Now, what do you think you do with, say, you come back with all of these stories and all of these moments and experiences? Do you ever come back home and write about it or use those in any way to sort of record, or be like, oh my gosh, I've discovered this something that that has really changed my perspective on or I experienced this light in this new way, you know, that reflected off of something and it hit me, and it caused you to feel a way that you maybe have never felt before. Do you ever record that?
Interesting. Actually, I don't tend to record things after experiences as such. I'm often recording what I want to happen, and or thoughts and feelings and approaches to designing things that I want to design, and or if there's something that's really bugging me, to get it out and work it out. But yeah, that's a fascinating question, because it's having me think, well, yeah, I think because I write so much with that all of that in mind, that more the activity just leaves me fresh to move on to the next thing.
Sometimes I find that, so taking your example of going on a walk, which I think walks are very underestimated. I think they're one of the most valuable things we can do. I do a lot of walking in nature, and sometimes, like you said, I'll go out with feeling full of some kind of emotion or some kind of expectation. Like, I need to go out and get rid of this feeling. I'm feeling angst, or I'm really exhausted, and I want to come back feeling really good and relaxed and great. And I think for me, an alternative approach could be no expectations, leaving all of those hopes and desires behind, and being so present that when you're on your walk or on your bike or whatever you're doing, and you're there literally over observing what you find, you know, in my case in nature, excessively observing how the buds are starting to come out, or how the colors are just starting to change, and the smell is a little bit different because it's just rained, or all of a sudden there's a new butterfly I've never seen before, there's a sound of a bird and I can't recognize it. So all of a sudden my mind is completely enveloped with this present moment, and there is no angst, anger, expectation. I'm not clinging on to those things that I wanted to use to identify myself. The things I used to structure my identity no longer exist. I get to be folded into this ecosystem where I ultimately come out understanding how minute, small, insignificant that energy was going out.
Yeah.
Sometimes that to me is my favorite experience of going out and utilizing a nature, for lack of a better word. The healing volume of nature. But even I think in an urban and landscape, and in any landscape, I think that just the observation of the world around us can, in a way that is non-attached. So we're not making judgment or getting even excited about anything, but just looking at looking at it as it is, watching things as they are in their own context, and we are simply passerby, and we are simply observing. And we have this incredible privilege to be able to observe, you know, and kind of take in, wow, that conversation or that window or that, you know, fire hydrant or whatever it may be.
Yeah, love that. What I get from it is knowing about the science of it, even being present and mindfulness is that sense of it gives us experience. It gives us a fresh experience, which creates what is called multi-perspectival knowing, which it means it stops the usual belief systems happening and allows fresh experience. And when we're having a fresh experience, that's actually reinforming new neural pathways. And because we're playing with that in environment, even if it's just staying present, it's still in play. It's still in focus. It's a sense of creativity. It's a sense of drive and flow in itself to stay present with that. So when we're doing that, it's shedding old belief systems and allowing, even if it seems like it's doing the same thing or try to be doing the same thing, it's actually providing new neural pathways to grow, and then that can help us differentiate between what beliefs we don't want to be having them. When we become more reflective in the moment, we can be actively not just in our bodies or in the environment, but then also become present of when a thought comes in or a belief system comes in to go, do I want to believe that anymore or not? Whilst that's happening, if we're staying really present to what we're reminded of as it comes along, or the mind tries to remind us of. And so is it something I want to forget or let go of, and is it something I want to take on, like you said, with the reflective practice of deliberately going, what did I learn from this? And I'm really present to what am I learning about this? What new story or what could I do to repeat something that I want to?
Exactly. And I think that's the key point, what you said about having that choice. We're rewriting our story, because what we love to do is create stories. We love to create our own story, an identity that is clinging to patterns, trauma, whatever it is. But if we go out and we are so supremely present in whatever context or ecosystem we walk into, we realize all of a sudden that we have this opportunity to, all of these stories are going on around us, that we have the opportunity to let that go, to let our story go, because it has no more significance than anything else. In fact, it has quite significantly less. And that playfulness is, like you said, it's playfulness, it's creativity, but creativity in a sense that isn't rigorous. It's playful. There has to be this lightness of it, because without the lightness of it, we can't let go. And without that sort of playfulness, we can't sort of adopt these surreal concepts. It's almost like we can be part of whatever world we want. Our avatar can be whatever it needs to be. We can go down whatever rabbit hole we want to, and there's nothing sacred about it. There's nothing more or less sacred to anything. And we're here we get to then pull together strings from whatever it is that we're moving through to create a sense of belonging.
Yeah.
And that's an infinite possibility of creativity there.
Brilliant. Amazing. I love it. I love it. And if we were to come circle round to like what you chose around choosing the flow science and health, what are you getting from this? Or what is it that you find useful to be able to share, that you wanted to bring around these topics based on what we're circling back around to?
So in terms of flow?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we just laid out was literally the epicenter of flow, is being present. And a flow state is being in that flow, is ultimate creativity, is a place where you can access different facets and parts of your brain and your neurology and your somatic intelligence. It doesn't exclude your somatic, your emotions, your senses, so that you can move through and draw from the intelligences of all of those different ecosystems and create knowledge. So flow state is being so open and flexible with your access to these different ecosystems, which mean different senses, you're working with your smell. If you're out walking around outside, wherever you are, whatever environment you're in, you're using your smell, you're using your sound, you're using all of your senses to create an understanding. It has nothing to do with an intellectual sort of comprehension of, oh, those people are having an argument or whatever. It's having access to everything. And flow state is that ultimate confluence where we develop an intelligence from our somatic and our cognitive experiences.
Amazing, 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 amazing. And what I got from what you were sharing as well, when it comes back to why that's healthy, why I understand why that's healthy is health being close to healing, like you say, and healing is this sense of repair that's happening. And I love the word repair because it reminds us of when there's no duality, when we feel separate from something, or when we're in flow, we are not even aware that we are separate from something. So that when I'm expressing to you and you're connecting to my words, that's the connection. It's like when we're in flow without sort of becoming suddenly aware that we're two different individuals, and noticing that thing where we're just on focus with that thing, that the smell of a flower, like you say, that flower, that smell is expressing out, and I'm connecting to it and connected to it and focused on it. There's no sense of separation, and then it's repaired. So the two pairs are brought together as a whole. And when we're feeling wholesome, then we don't feel like there's a fight against it. And it's this psychological repair of it, which potentially then stops this nervous system from feeling separate. And again, that relaxes the nervous system and keeps us in flow as well.
Yeah, I love that you said about repair, and the whole notion of wellness is wholeness, right? And that's those two things that you brought up, wholeness and repair. The only thing we're all really looking for is that sense of wholeness, because we're always feeling that extraction, and a lot of the time it's a separation from our body and our senses and our mind. And it's hard for most people to understand how to integrate those different systems. And when you talk about the smell of the flower, even if you don't consciously know that you're smelling the flower, there's an experience of intaking and digesting that flower. And many people don't realize that that's an intelligence that affects our behavior without knowing that we're smelling it. A lot of people have shut their senses down so that it takes an enormous, massive smell of something to understand that their olfactory nervous system, that's a part of their nervous system, that their olfactory senses are actually working. Our nervous system is attached to all of these different senses, and we can't control it through our minds doing some kind of chanting alone. It really has to happen through slowly becoming whole, like you said, and activating all of our senses so that ultimately we understand how they affect our minds, how they affect our behavior and everything. And that wholeness is really, I think, comes through, it really does come through the engagement of senses and enabling them an opportunity to integrate with our intelligence, and not just thinking of the mind and of words, you know, as our sole vehicles for communication and vehicles for comprehension. But I think, so when you talk about wholeness, what is it, what's the experience that you had that has made you feel most whole?
It's often goes back around to music. That's because it's the way I can feel into whichever parts, and I've done it for so long that it's easy to do that in a certain way. But it can be flavors, cooking, or eating, and as well. But yeah, mainly music, because I can either just simply listen to different areas of the song, or the tune, or the sound, the vibrations of that, where they land, how I feel about them, how I don't feel about them as well, even. And then there's the playing of the instrument, so the guitar, where I can get into it that way too. So it's more of an interactive process of learning a skill at the same time, and that's more complicated. But I've noticed how to work with that well too, so that I can learn how to get into flow quickly with the instrument, through doing something well known, so that my brain's not struggling so hard with what I'm trying to do, or comparing myself to anything. Doing something I know, and once my body's catching up with my mind, then I can start playing around with more complicated things. So it's almost like cold plasticine, and molding it so it becomes more playful before then getting more intricate with it. So playing with guitar or an instrument, or rhythms and drums, and the same then for dancing and interacting in that way with just body movement. So that's the three ways that if I'm not doing that regularly, then I notice myself starting to tense up a lot more.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you see, it's all these things that are engaging the senses and the body. And when we turn away from that, we instantly become fractured. And there really is, in my experience, I don't think there's any other way around living fully other than engaging the senses in different ways.
Yes, fantastic. So yeah, what is there anything? What kind of things? What are your go-to things?
Well, I mean, I'm an athlete, so I also was a dancer from a very early age and played many instruments, and so very musical. Right now, most of my flow is in the mountains using skis or mountain biking. So there's a lot of downhill of this flowing. You can imagine what skiing is like, right? It's very, very fluid, and it's a dance that's just very specific. It's very special. And one thing you said was that you have to open up first, right? And it's like you have to prime yourself. And I think that's one of the key things is certainly in any art or any conversation or to get into any kind of flow state. And maybe it's obvious, same thing for sport. You really do have to prime or warm up, as a lot of people call it, or prime, and and begin a certain type of movement before then you just open up and you have this vocabulary, essentially this physical vocabulary that's massive, and then you can really just fine tune that and articulate that in ways that are really precise. And I think the application of that is really, it can be applied to It can be applied to learning. It really can be applied to anything. But it's a real dedication of time, right? And the dedication and devotion. I love that word. I think you really have to feel devoted to something to get into a flow state. Flow state feels really cumbersome sometimes when it's studied, and I would say in this course, there are moments where it feels really weighted by very cumbersome techniques and methods and strategies, where I'm used to, approaching it in a very different way. But when you're just starting to learn about what flow is, it really does have to have so much structure in order to learn. For people who don't know what it means and who haven't had that experience yet, you really do have to have a very strong element of guarded. You have to guard yourself from outside stimuli so that you can really protect the focus, and more importantly, know what your focus is, because I think most people probably don't really know what the focus is. I think in some of our conversations, they tend to want to think the focus is about making money. And so how much money can I make? And I can do the spreadsheets and I can run the numbers and I can look at how many things I can bring in and people. And that's going to kill the flow pretty straight up, And I think if you focusing more on what it is that you're capable of doing, and inherently what is intrinsic to your persona and your experience, because it does take a lifetime to create a flow in anything, that you really do have to understand who you are, where you come from, and what your natural inherent skills are, to then build some kind of business continuity, continuous flow state, where you can, if you want to build a business of some kind.
Yeah, it just reminded me of something of a what's the word? It was an insight, they call it aha moment, but I prefer a profound moment of realization where when we were studying the flow science stuff, that there was when we're learning a new skill to get into flow with it, the bigger the more we don't know about it, the level of getting into mastery. To get into mastery is the ultimate, being able to just drop into flow quickly and easily with that skill really quickly. I was doing that with breath hold work in order to get my energy back in line, and I told myself it was critical to do that. That was the only way that I could get out of a particular anxiety period of my life not that long ago, and I was like really struggling with palpitations and all of this stuff was going on, and I found that it worked, but it was very short-lived, because it's like having a leaky tire. Where the CO2 would be going back down again, and then it would happen again if I wasn't doing it consistently. And I was like, is this ever going to change? But I carried on going. And what I learned from it was like this idea that to get into flow, there is a struggle phase, and however big, what I learned from it is that whatever task is being picked, the more we don't know how to do that task, the bigger the struggle phase, unless we break that task down into really small chunks to make that task.
Yeah.
And so the breath hold work is to get into flow with it, is to also create a level of anxiety, but a level that doesn't cause the major flip of anxiety. So it's really interesting, because it was something that I'd learned that was uncomfortable. So I was learning to get into a flow with a skill that didn't feel good, like if people choose to go and do cold showers and they just absolutely cannot stand the cold whatsoever, but they are suggested that that's the only thing that's going to work for them, that they have to address it. And the only way to address that is to do graded work into it, other than just going straight into it could freak someone out completely. Well, I was thought that too. But my point being is that struggle phase for me, like learning how to feel uncomfortable with something, can be this where the gold is, even if it feels difficult for a while. It actually, learning to feel uncomfortable is then it's easy to go, okay, well, where else am I potentially weak at or not so good at in life, and get into flow with that, to not to just go and change my identity completely, but just to pick the areas of life that need to be more balanced, so that I don't freak out or not feel capable in life because of those areas not being addressed. Like learning how to communicate my voice and my language, I had to learn that, and that's why I was also going through palpitation and things.
Yeah.
Learning the skills of communication at the same time. So everything felt like it was collapsing all at once, and that breath hold work has really helped. And now I can get into a flow of it. So I really wanted to bring that up, because it's almost like my brain had decided that was a bad thing, that I chosen to do it. So it's fascinating, and now I feel like I've overcome that, and I'm actually enjoying it from a level of I've got a capacity for CO2 that's enough. I've got a lot of energy from this much, rather than before I was freaking out around here, and I'm not having much space for quick breath hold work or lung capacity. And now I've got this, which means that when I go, I've got more space to feel uncomfortable before it goes into really strong anxiety. And so now I feel like I can handle feeling uncomfortable so much more and be in flow with that too.
Yeah, that's such a key. I mean, breath work is priceless. I don't know if there's anything more valuable than breath work, and the infinite different ways you can work with your breath. And the cool thing is that there are so many different resources and ways of approaching it, and methods and whatnot. And then, like you said, I think what happens is you learn, when you start approaching that level of anxiety or palpitations, you see that it used to be that all of a sudden it was on you and you were there, and you're just caught in the middle of it and there's nothing you can do. But the more you practice that, the more you can be like, okay, I can see that in an hour, if I don't do what I need to do in an hour's time, I'm going to be in a state where I'm going to freeze up. So that it's like, it gives you so much more time. You start to see so much more clear the ramifications of what's going to happen in advance, because you're starting to tense up in this minute little place, and you recognize these tiny little shifts. And that to me is the beauty of I used to have a mantra that said, stay scared. And it was kind of my everyday mantra. I just loved risk, and I still do. I love doing little dangerous things, and it just kept me, I knew that it kept me learning, and it kept doing new things that felt scary to me. I knew it was always pushing my threshold and pushing my boundary, and enabled me to get better, to just improve and to grow. So there are parts of that are, out of line, and there are parts, there are different elements of that and different ranges, but always pushing out of your comfort zone, hands down, the bottom line is really important for growth. And doing new things is one of the most important things you could do for yourself for your entire life, up to the day you die. Learning something new, causing your brain to get mixed up with, so there's no formula, there's no preemptive way to prime. You're like, I'm doing something, I don't even know how to make a single step towards that kind of thing. I don't even know what kind of breath to take. But you do find it, because you do know, and I remember once I was a national champion diver, and I was 12, I think I was 12, and I was at my first national championships. I got up on the 3-meter diving board, and I knew what dive I was doing, but I literally was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I couldn't in my mind remember how to do it. And so I was like, I know that I know how to do this. And I had all these conversations going on. And of course, the whole pool was silent. All the judges were watching, absolutely still silence. And all I could do was take one step. And so I took that one step, and I of course I did it, and everything worked out fine. But it was just this moment where literally my muscle memory shut down, and I had no idea what I was going to do. So I just all I knew how to do was to take a step, and that brought me there.
Amazing.
Yeah. But so I think that's the key, you know. I think that I think breath work, that was the bottom line. I think it's really the thing that can carry us anywhere, really, literally anywhere. And we have so much inside of us to work with.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Well, this has been such a good conversation. I
Yes.
thank you so much. And we'll do it again, okay?
Yeah, we will. So thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed it. Any highlights, comments, anything that you've learned, just repeat it back in the comments.
That's right.
Or share with anyone that you think maybe find this useful. And we're gonna. This is obviously feels like it's the first of many that we will stay in touch with Beth, and we'll make some really cool talks around health going forward.
Yeah. Thanks for making this happen, Rory. We have so much to talk about. I'm excited.